Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to Zona Aquariums. You'll notice I'm not sitting in front of the 180-gallon tank. No, today we're in the living room, and behind me is my 29-gallon aquarium and the first planted tank that I set up in this house. Long story short, I bought another 29-gallon tank to use as a quarantine for 12 rainbow fish that I'm going to be ordering. But the lid that came with this 29-gallon tank doesn't fit that 29-gallon tank. So being the crazy individual that I am, I decided I'm going to swap them out. And at the same time, I'm also going to swap out the substrate to make a proper dirted tank here in the living room. Walk you guys through kind of what's going to happen. So I have 3 completely empty buckets so that I can take a fair amount of water out of this tank, plus grab all of the decorations and fish and store them while I finish draining the tank and get it out of here. Then we're going to put a brand new tank in its place. We're going to use a proper dirted method, so I have some mineralized topsoil in the garage that has already been mixed with some red potter's clay. So that will be the substrate. We're going to cap it with some fluval stratum that came out of the old 10-gallon tank. And then we are going to go ahead and rescape it and get all the fish back into that tank tonight. So hope you enjoy the journey. Alright, so we've gotten all the decorations out and all the plants out. Waited a couple of minutes to let the dirt kind of settle out of the water column. And now comes the fun part, right? So we got the sponge filter set up in a bucket on the floor over here. I have my trusty little net, and now we're going to go fish and shrimp catching, and hopefully we get them all. Alright, so all the fish are out. All that's left, take the heater out, take the filter off. I'm going to ask my wife to help me move this tank into the fish room. We'll put the empty tank here, and then we'll start preparing the mineralized topsoil. Meanwhile, the fish are in a bucket of water, tank water, with sponge filters, so they are good to go, and we can take our time getting everything else set up. So before we get started setting up the new tank, this is basically a bunch of videos that I saw on YouTube about how to set up a dirted tank. I took some of the ideas and now I'm going to try it for myself. And one of the ideas was to use some of this light diffuser or egg crate right up along the edge, because what I'm going to do is put a little bit of that fluval stratum along the outside edge so you don't actually see the dirt. And this should hopefully prevent the dirt from eventually creeping in and showing through. So let me go ahead and just put that first little layer down. What I have here is a bucket of mineralized topsoil. It's basically Miracle-Gro organic potting soil that I have sifted, soaked, dried many times over, sifted it again. Then I added some red potter's clay, which should help with the red plants and add a whole lot of iron. And basically the idea here is, I should have the consistency of a good thick mud. So let's go ahead and get this into the bottom of the tank, and I'll show you afterwards. So sometimes the hardest part is just remembering to film yourself. But I finished putting the cap in, and now we're starting the hardscape. I'm hoping to put probably about 3 rocks or so on the right hand side with the hang-on back filter behind it and the sponge filter back in that corner. I'm thinking the large red Rubens sword plant. I like the way it kind of covers the sponge filter, blocks the air bubbles from popping on the surface like that. So let's see how this comes out. When going ahead and planting some of the Anubias, remember to make sure that the rhizome doesn't get completely buried or it will rot. So I decided to fill the rest of the tank up. I know some people do their aquascaping and planting while the tank is dry, and I did try doing that just now, but I didn't find myself very successful, and I think in the end I would rather see what the plants look like with water in the tank. So because it's really cloudy, I have packed the hang-on back filter with filter floss, and we're going to let it run for a while to hopefully clear up, do a little bit of more scaping. We're going to pull out probably about half that water and then either put the rest of the tank water back in with the fish if it clears up, or do it one more time. Alright, so here we are. It's the next day. And as I mentioned, sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself and I do things without remembering to record it. And this is my living room, and early mornings, people are sleeping, so I couldn't record everything. Anyways, I drained and refilled the tank 3 times until it kind of ran clear. Every time I would pack the hang-on back filter with new filter floss to remove as much of the floating debris as possible. So yeah, then I left the fish in the bucket overnight. I decided that I had done enough that I could have done some damage to enough beneficial bacteria that I was afraid of starting the cycle over again. Remember, the sponge filter was in the bucket with the fish. So I left that running overnight, and in the morning what I did was I did something like drip acclimation. I took a half a cup from the aquarium every 10 minutes and I added it to the bucket. I did that for about 3 hours. Felt like it was close enough, and then strained the fish out and put them in there. So I am going to step away, zoom in, and leave you guys with a quick image of the new living room scape. I hope you enjoy it.